you guys. I'm sorry I am not with you today. I just love being with your class. You guys are so fun, lots of energy, and I hope you are being good for your subs. So please make sure that you are in your seats, that you are being quiet, and that you follow along with this video just like as if I were in the room with you, okay? So just pretend that I'm there teaching you, and write down everything that I write down. Make sure you're following along so that you're then able to do your ALEKS assignment. Okay, here we go. On today's lesson, you guys are going to be learning how to evaluate expressions. The past couple of weeks we have been working on simplifying expressions, which is where you distribute and then combine like terms to create equivalent expressions. And today you are going to be learning how to evaluate. So evaluate means to figure out the answer if. So you're going to be given an expression. This one's already done for you, so let's just go ahead and go to this one. So when you evaluate an expression, it will always, that expression is going to contain one variable or more than one variable, and you need to figure out the given value for the variable, and then you're going to take that expression and you're going to figure out the answer if. So if your expression is 2 times p for 8, 2 times p plus 8, and you're evaluating for p equals 6, what you do is you take that expression, you write it just like it is, but instead of p, you're going to substitute that with the given value, and now you're going to figure out the answer to this expression if you let the p be equal to -6. So now you just simplify. 2 times -6 is -12. -12 plus 8 is -4, and that is our final answer. Okay, let's go ahead and go to the next one. So for the next one, 6t minus 10 for t equals -1.5. So we write the expression just like it is. So the 6 needs to be multiplied by whatever t is, and then we have a -10. So now when we evaluate, we take this value of t, we plug it in for the t in the expression, and then we just simplify what we have left. Make sure that when you're doing this, you follow order of operations. So in order of operations, we always multiply before we add or subtract. So we're going to take the 6 times -1.5, and then we're going to combine that with a -10, and that is going to give us a -19. Okay, next one, 3/4 times m minus 1/2. So if we're going to evaluate this for when m equals 5, we take our expression, we write it just like it is, but instead of that m, we're going to make a substitution. And we want to know what the value of this expression is if we let the m be 5. Okay, so 3/4 times 5, and then we're going to combine that with a -1/2. And notice I'm using my calculator to do that, and that gives me 13/4. Now another way to write that would be as a decimal, 3.25, or I could take that improper fraction and write it as 3 1/4. All of these are equivalent. They're just different ways of writing the same value. Okay, next one. Now the next one is a little bit tricky. Notice that we have a minus sign and then a 3 and then times the x. So when you substitute that -3/8 in for the x, you have to remember that this is a -3 times by a -3/8. So a -3 times by a -3/8 is going to be a +9/8, and then we are going to combine that with the 12. Remember that we needed to multiply first before we do any adding or subtracting. So if I take 12 and I add 9/8, then I'm going to get 105/8 as a decimal. That's going to be 13.125. Okay, And then we're going to go ahead and just skip this last one, and we are going to move to the next part of your notes, which is simple interest. So in Math 7, one of the main topics that we have been learning about is percentages. And simple interest is a topic that goes with that unit. Simple interest is money paid or earned on the principal or starting amount of an account. And simple interest uses a formula. Interest equals P times R times T. These are what each of those variables stand for. So in the formula, I is interest earned, P is principal, R is interest rate, and T is time in years. So I don't know if you guys are aware of this or not, but banks are a business. And the way that banks make money is they take the money that you deposit into your savings account or checking account, and they loan it out to other people to buy things like cars or boats or houses. And when the bank gives a loan to someone, the bank charges that customer interest. So the customer has to pay back the full amount of the loan plus the interest, and that's how the bank makes money as a business, is through interest. Now, in exchange for them borrowing your money to loan out so that they can make interest on it, they will actually pay you interest if you have money in their bank. Okay, so interest can be something that is owed or earned, and either way, it's calculated using this simple interest formula. So let's go ahead and read this real-world example of someone putting money into a savings account and earning interest. So it says Maria deposits $400 into a savings account that earns 3% simple interest each year. How much interest will she earn over 5 years? So that's our time, assuming she does not add or take out any money. Okay, so Maria deposits $400. That means deposit means she puts money into the bank. Okay, she deposits $400 into a savings account, and so in exchange for her doing that, the bank pays her some interest. Now remember, the percentage always has to be of a total, right? So the 3% is of that principal amount. So the way that this works is you take your simple interest formula, which is this, and then you plug in all of the things that you know into the formula. So you're going to evaluate. We want to know what the interest is if the principal, which is $400, is multiplied by the rate, and whenever we're multiplying by a percentage, which is it's a 3%, right? We change that to a decimal, so that percent is going to be 0.03 as a decimal, and then the time in years is 5 years. And now we multiply all of those together, 400 times 0.03 times 5, and we get that the interest is $60. So if she puts $400 into a savings account, she leaves it there for 5 years, the money is going to make an additional $60 in interest. So after 5 years, she will have $460 in her account. Okay, so all she had to do is put money in the bank, and by keeping her money in the bank, she was able to make even more money. Okay, so now let's go ahead and go to the next page of our notes, which is where we are going to practice evaluating the simple interest formula, and then we're even going to solve some equations using that formula. So simple interest formula, and this is something that you guys need to have memorized. So it's interest equals principal times rate times time, And then remember, the principal is always the starting amount. So I want you to make sure that you have this written down on your notes page. The principal is always the beginning balance or the starting amount. The R, that is the rate. Okay, so that's always going to be a percentage that you need to turn into a decimal. Okay, and then the T, that is time in years. So that's what the T stands for. So let's go ahead and look at this next part. It says find the amount, principal, or interest. And for all of these, we are going to say that the time in years is 2. Okay, so for all of these, we're going to use that the T is 2 years. So what we do is we take our formula for number 1, we're going to say interest equals percent times rate times time. And so we're going to plug in what we know. We know the initial balance is $22,809. Oh my gosh, you guys, I'm so sorry. I realized I skipped a whole page. I skipped the whole bottom part of this simple interest page. So let's back up. Let's go back to the page that says number 70 at the top, simple interest. And I'm going to go ahead and go through these word problems with you, okay? So for the first one, it says, Mr. Spire took out a $15,000 loan to replace the windows in his house. He agreed to pay back the loan plus 7% simple interest at the end of 3 years. How much interest did Mr. Spear pay? Okay, so we are going to use our simple interest formula. So interest equals principal, which is the starting amount, times rate, times time. And we are going to go to our problem and we're going to figure out what the values of each of these variables are, and then we're going to evaluate. So Mr. Spear took out a $15,000 loan. So that is going to get our P, that's our principal amount. We're going to replace that with $15,000. Okay. And then we're going to multiply that by the R and multiply by that by the T, and that will give us our I. He agreed to pay back the loan plus 7% simple interest. So that's our rate. And remember, we always plug our rate in as a decimal. So that's going to be 0.07. And then for this one, our time in years is 3 years. So I'm going to plug in a 3 for the time in years. And now we just have to multiply those 3 together. So we're going to do 15,000 times by 0.07 times by 3. And we get $3,150. Okay, now the thing that you need to know is that Mr. Spear has to pay back the entire $15,000 loan, plus because he took out a loan and borrowed money, he now has to pay an additional interest of $3,150. So if you add those together, the total amount that he had to pay would be $18,150. So he paid this much in interest. That's what the question was asking. But I wanted you to understand that the total amount he paid to replace his windows was $18,150 because he had to pay back the loan plus interest. Okay, let's go ahead and look at the next one. It says Joe put $5,000 into an account that paid 9% simple interest. What was the balance on the account after 2 years, assuming he did not add or take out any money? Okay, so we take our formula, interest equals principal times rate times time. and we plug in all of the things that we know into the formula to figure out the thing that we need. So Joe put $5,000 into an account. So that is his principal amount. That's our starting amount. That goes in for the P. We're then going to multiply that by the R and T, and that will help us to figure out what our I is. So 9% simple interest. Okay, so this time he is making money in interest. So that's a good thing. So interest, when it works in your favor, is a good thing. So 0.09, and then time in years. That's right here. So the time in years is 2 years. So we're going to plug that in here. And then to figure out the balance in the account after 2 years, we first need to take the 5,000, multiply by 0.09, multiply by 2, which is 900. Okay, so we made $900 in interest, and he already had 5,000 in the account. So after 2 years, the total amount of money in the account would be $5,900. Okay, let's go ahead and try another one. Raymond set aside $750 in a savings account that paid 4.5% simple interest. If he did not deposit or withdraw any money, what was the balance in the account after 6 years? So again, this is a situation where Raymond is going to earn money in interest. So he started with $750 in the account. The account paid 4.5% interest, and he left it in the account for 6 years. So we want to know the balance in the account after that time. So here's our formula. Interest equals principal times rate times time. We know that 750 is our principal. Our rate is 4.5. So be careful here. When you are changing 4.5% into a decimal, because it already has a decimal, make sure that you remember that 4.5 out of 100, when you change that so that you can use it, 4.5 out of 100 is going to be 0.045. Okay, so this, when we plug it in for the R, we have to plug it in as 0.045, and then for 6 years. Okay, here we go. Interest equals principal, which is 750, times the rate, which is 0.045, times the time, which is 6. Now we multiply all those together. 750 times 0.045 times by 6, and we get $202.50. We now take this amount of money, we add it to his initial deposit, and that's how much money he's going to have in the bank after 6 years. So $202.50 added to the 750 is going to be $952.20. Okay, let's go ahead and do one more. It says Rooms For You offers buyers a loan. Now, if you're doing a loan, you're going to have to pay interest. That is an additional amount of money you have to pay for borrowing. It says that the interest is 1.8%. The loan amount is 5 years, and the purchase or the original cost or the amount, the principal, is $3,800. So we take our interest equals principal times rate times time. We plug in what we know to figure out what we don't know. So our principal is $3,800. Our rate this time, if we take 1.8 divided by 100, we are going to get 0.018, and then times by 5. Okay, so 0.018 times by 5 times by 3,800 gives us 342. So on top of having to pay back the $3,800. Shay also has to pay an additional $342. So the total amount for the loan is $4,142. Okay, now because this video is taking so long, I'm so sorry. I didn't know that this would take so long. Instead of doing the next part in your notes, I will help you with those when I get back. I want you to go to Canvas, and I need you to do all of the assignments that are listed in Canvas. They are also listed on the slides. The sub should have shown you the slides for the day, and so those assignments are also listed on the slides. I need those done before I see you on Friday, right? So if you don't finish them in class, you have homework. Okay, be good. Get your stuff done. I will see you soon.